Infrastructure, transportation, energy, and water are issues at the forefront of Utah's growth. Here to discuss Utah's preparation for the 2034 Olympics, housing for future generations, and keeping Utah on the path of positive growth and economic stability, please welcome to the stage President and CEO of Clyde Companies, Jeremy Hafen, Utah Speaker of the House, Mike Schulz, and Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson.
It's great to be with you all. We just want to take a few minutes to talk about infrastructure, transportation, and growth in Utah. So it's an honor to be on stage here with Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson and Speaker Mike Schulz. And I'm Jeremy Hafen. I'm the President and CEO of Clyde Companies. And it's just an honor to be here with you guys. So since we have short time, let's get right on with the first question. I'm going to go first to the Lieutenant Governor. Let's talk about getting ahead of growth. How do we do it the right way without hurting Utahns' quality of life?
Well, thanks, Jeremy. It's great to be with you. Great to be with you, Mr. Speaker. We got 20 minutes. I think we can solve all of these problems in the next 20 minutes.
Absolutely.
So growth is actually an opportunity and a challenge. And as our good governor, Spencer Cox, likes to say, growth without planning, growth before planning is really bad. Growth after planning is ideal. And that's where we need to be in order to make sure that we're growing, which is a good problem to have. We don't want to be a state that's like California, bleeding people and industry. We want to be growing. That's good. But of course, it also comes with some challenges. So one of the ways that our administration has really been trying to focus on tackling the challenge and opportunity of growth is to make sure that we're not all acting in silos. I think this is something that is really the secret sauce here in Utah. We collaborate. The executive branch collaborates with the legislative branch. State government collaborates with local government. We collaborate with industry. And we don't do it all perfectly. But we really do it intentionally, and I think that that's the key. So one of the things that the governor did earlier this year was he launched the Build Coordinating Council, and BUILD is an acronym, and I'm going to try to remember what it all stands for. It's Blueprint for Utah's Industrial and Land Development. And what it is a council that doesn't consolidate planning at the state level, but it coordinates, it streamlines, it makes sure that between state and local government and private industry and our associations, we're not duplicating efforts, we're actually creating synergy. And we're working together. We're taking state agencies' long-term plans, and we're making sure that everything kind of flows together so that we can really make sure that we're building where we need to build, and that's housing, that's transportation, that's energy production. We have a lot of opportunities on the horizon, and we're going to need to be able to work together to solve these challenges moving forward. And if we don't work together, we're going to have a hard time doing what needs to be done in order to make Utah strong and healthy and keep our values. And those values, we are a state that loves our communities. We value strong communities. We value strong families. We value a strong economy. And we have to work together to do that.
I love the idea of collaboration. We're going to get to that a little bit more later on in the conversation. But let me ask you a little bit about energy. The Cox-Henderson administration has launched Operation Gigawatt, I should say. Can you take us into a deeper dive into that and talk a little bit about what's going on there and what the vision is with that?
Yeah, I mean, again, Governor Cox has this incredible opportunity. He was chair of the National Governors Association, and a couple of years ago, he really started to realize, along with other governors, that we're facing a crisis of energy. Not just Utah, but the entire United States, probably the entire world, with the electrification of everything, with AI now. We need to drastically increase Utah's energy production. So he launched last year Operation Gigawatt here at the One Utah Summit, as we heard earlier. And what that is doubling Utah's energy production in the next few years. We're an all of the above state when it comes to energy production. We've traditionally had a lot of coal and natural gas. Now we're including in our portfolio a lot of renewables and clean energy, wind, solar, geothermal, hydrogen, and we need to do nuclear. And nuclear is going to, is a key. We have to do it. I think the state's committed to do it. The legislature appropriated about $25 million for nuclear and geothermal energy, and we're working really hard to build plans around that. I took a small group of legislators and agency heads to the United Kingdom 3 months ago to look at what they're doing with nuclear energy production with their small modular reactors, SMRs, and how they're building the energy supply chain in the United Kingdom. And we came away with some really great insights and ideas for how to do that here in Utah. We're actively working on that. I think nuclear energy is the princess at the party these days, and it's not just for Republicans. It's across the board. So we're really excited at the new technologies that are out there to help us not just increase our energy supply in Utah, be an energy exporter, but to also participate in the supply chain of nuclear energy. Really quick, when we were in the UK, we went to Westinghouse, and they were building nuclear fuel there. And they had just opened up a shipment of nuclear fuel cladding, the rods that the fuel pellets go in. They had just opened up these crates that they'd gotten that morning from Western Zirconium in Ogden, Utah. So it was really cool to see Utah's already playing a role worldwide in this energy production, and we need to continue that.
Okay, so we've talked about growth, we've talked about energy. How do you prepare Utah's future workforce for all of this?
Well, that's the key. And again, this is where I think that the really beautiful partnership between the executive branch and the legislature and higher education and even K-12 comes into play. A number of years ago, we really started working hard on making sure that higher ed was actually turning out the skilled workforce that industry needed. And we've partnered in lots of ways with Clyde companies, with others, to make sure that we've got the skilled workforce we need. Speaker Schulz has been a huge leader on this in our state. He's done incredible work. So we need to do that, but we need to start earlier than higher ed. We need to start with pre-K, frankly. One of the governor's big pushes this coming year, and it's been a priority of the legislature, is to make sure our young kids are reading above grade level by the time they're in third grade. And I think if we don't get that right, because our reading levels have come down over the years, if we don't get that right, we're going to be in a world of hurt when it comes to our future workforce. So we got to get way upstream. That's something that we're working on very diligently. The teachers in our state are working on. The legislature has had as a significant priority, and we'll continue to do that to prepare the workforce of tomorrow.
Thank you, Deidre. Okay, let's give you a break for a second. Let's go on to Speaker Schulz. So Utah is known as one of the best managed states. So what principles guide you in making sure that Utah remains financially strong while still trying to balance the demands of the future?
That's a great question. Jeremy, thank you. And it is something that I think we're the third year in a row has been recognized on the national stage as been the best managed state in the nation. It's something that we are very proud of as state leaders and as Utahns, honestly. But it didn't just start with us as state leaders today. You have to go back in time and you have to look at the state leaders that came before us that created the opportunities, that thought ahead, right? Jeremy, you're in business. If you're looking at today's problems and solving today's problems, you're going to be successful for a short period of time. But if you really want to be successful, you're looking at what's tomorrow's problems. What are the problems future generations are going to be facing? That's one thing that I'm proud of here in the state of Utah. It's instilled in us. It's ingrained in who we are. It's in our culture. And leaders before us had that. They're not just skating to where the puck is today. They're skating to where the puck is going. And now that we have hockey here in Utah, we can talk about that and use that analogy, right? But I think that's so important that we're looking at, and no other state does that. As I travel around, as I talk with other speakers, other legislators, go to conferences, Utah is always leading out on where are the problems, what's happening. Talk about the energy crisis. That's something that started here in the state of Utah 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Senator Darren Owens, where is he? He's the one that led out on it. Representative Ken Ivory led out on the energy problems that's facing the state and the nation. We started to get ahead of that. One of the first states in the nation, which has then led to where we're at today. And the governors came and just put, and lieutenant governors came and just put the emphasis behind it that we needed ahead of every other state in the nation. I could go down the list. So many other things that we look at in how we get ahead of things. Another one, the way we budget. Governor Cox gave a little dig to the federal government in the shutdown earlier today, as he should. Utah is constitutionally mandated to balance our budget. We live within our means. We are the most financially stable state in the nation, which then helps us be the best managed state in the nation. And then also, and Lieutenant Governor Henderson talked about this, the collaboration, and it isn't always easy between the executive branch, between the legislature, between the House, and between the Senate. Sometimes we have to have hard and difficult conversations where we disagree. I represent the House, which is 75 members. President Adams represents the Senate, which is 29 members. And then obviously the governor represents the whole state, but he has a whole team behind him on the executive branch. It's not easy to bring all those constituencies together to find a way forward. But we work really hard to do that, and again, it doesn't happen when we're out talking to other leaders across the country. It's unique that collaboration happens here in Utah. I think those are the things that makes us unique and different.
No, I love the idea of collaboration. Okay, so with so much change happening, how do we preserve the values that we have here in the state?
The quality of life, right? The growth. That's one of the biggest concerns as we look to grow. Utah's the fastest growing state in the nation. How do we preserve the quality of life? It's one of the most important things that we're looking at, one of the most important things that we're staring at. Look, 80% of Utah lives from Brigham City to Payson, right, along the Wasatch Front. It's the 9th most urban area in the country. Think about that, in Utah. Utah has the 9th most urban area in the country. When I heard that, I couldn't believe that happens in Utah. 80% of our state lives in that along the Wasatch Front. That is not good for the whole state, I don't believe. And you can't keep forcing all that growth into that small of an area. When I first became elected 10, 11 years ago, I had county commissioners, some of whom are here today, talk to me about I'll never forget it. Representative, they said to me, Representative, the only thing we're exporting in our county is our kids. Help us with that. Governor Cox has been a leader on helping grow rural Utah. The legislature, I'm going to say 8 years ago, under former Speaker Greg Hughes, we passed the Inland Port Bill. That bill ended up being a mess and a train wreck. We had to come back in about 5, 6 years ago, fix it. We add a rural Utah component to it to where we could go out and expand into rural Utah. Those benefits we're seeing today. We need to look at rural Utah as we look to solve the problems because there's so many opportunities there, and then kids won't have to leave. They'll be able to live in rural Utah where they grew up, and it'll be better for the state of Utah. Jeremy, can I ask you? So, it's a good question. So, you lead one of the largest businesses in the state of Utah. You was the president of the chamber. You're very involved in public policy. From your perspective, the private sector, what can the private sector do to help keep quality growth and keep our quality of life here in the state of Utah?
I appreciate that. And your jobs are tough. I look at you guys in the public sector, and I don't know if I could do that. So I appreciate all you guys do, but I also appreciate you asking me the question. And as CEO of Clyde Companies, I've got to take advantage of being on the stage a little bit to talk about transportation and funding and growth. And I think we're up against a problem. And we've talked about this a little bit of how do we fund the future growth? We're starting to feel that pinch more and more and more in transportation. You get the Wasatch Front, even down here in southern Utah. We're starting to see that growth take its toll on transportation. But I do feel like that there is the ability for the public sector and the private sector to come together and find solutions that can work. I think maybe the future of some of this could be enhanced user fees or tolls. I speak from the business side. As we go forward, are we going to have to find new, unique, creative ways to help ease gridlock in our transportation corridors? Maybe in transit, in different ways. I can see that. If you look right now, we have a very well-planned unified transportation plan. And this plan actually plans out 25 years of where do we need roads, where do we need rail, where do we need transit. But the plan is actually underfunded by about $58 billion over the next 25 years. Now, will that change and morph a little bit as we go? Yes. But how do we find, you divide $58 billion by 25 years, that's a couple $1 billion a year. What do we do to help make that go? And so I believe business can come together with the public sector and try to find solutions. Maybe they're private solutions, maybe it's public-private partnerships in different ways that we can help figure out and ease that gridlock a little bit. So there are great plans. Even the Kim C. Gardner Institute, I was just reading a study that just came out in September 2025. They listed the 7 troubling challenges of Utah, and number 2 is traffic congestion. And so we do need to find this, but I do feel like, or find a solution, but I do feel like it's a collaboration effort. The executive branch, the legislative branch, the business side of things. How can we get creative? What can we do to solve things? And we at Clyde Companies are going to help drive whatever we can to help find these solutions that are good for all of us in the state. So with that, I'm going to give each of you any last-minute final words.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
This is off script, you guys. So.
It depends.
So Jeremy, what should the state, from your perspective as a private businessman, what should the state be doing differently to collaborate with industry?
Yeah, I think the state is collaborative. So they're willing to sit down, they're willing to talk, they're willing to do it. I do feel like we've got to get more creative approaches in funding into the future. So I do believe that the state somehow, if we can figure out a way to get this unified transportation plan funded, that is going to be the key. And so I think creative ways of user fees or toll roads or things like that. Now,
you mean things that our constituents will beat us up over?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so that's where,
just making sure.
That's the beauty of me being on the business side, is I look at it and I say, you guys have to worry about that. I don't as much. So I can help push that. I can help promote that. And there are really good ways that we can make that work to be able to enhance the mobility in our state. And the mobility is going to become a problem. So I do feel like we need to be accelerating what we're doing in the state. We've got to push it further and bolder and bigger and really make that come together so that our mobility can improve and not get worse and worse and worse as we go into the future. Any last thoughts? I'll give that to you.
Well, I appreciate it. I think that's great advice, and Lieutenant Governor, great question, and I appreciate the answer. And Jeremy's spot on. I'm going to take my last minute, and just since we're here at SUU, I have to give President Mindy Benson a huge shout out. I'll tell you why here in just a minute, but she's led the nation. Literally a couple years ago, she made some tough decisions that led the nation, but she led Utah on through this higher education cut and reallocation process that the legislature asked higher education to go through. And I'll tell you, it wasn't easy for anybody inside higher education, but I could not be more proud of the way that higher education came together. Representative Karen Peterson in the House, Senator Ann Milner in the Senate worked together with higher ed institutions all across the state. But as we looked at the plans and we looked at how higher education came together, and those plans were presented to the legislature a couple weeks ago, I was most impressed with President Mindy Benson's plan moving forward in what SUU is doing. They accepted the challenge, they made the university better, and ultimately we're going to get more kids through the process quicker, faster, and cheaper, which is a benefit to our state, and I just want to give a huge shout out to her and all that she's doing. Thank you.
With that, thank you, Speaker Schulz. Lieutenant Governor Henderson, we appreciate being on stage and taking some hard questions. Thanks again.
Thank you.